Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to my photo editing live stream where you can submit your images here before the stream starts, and I edit them for you live using DxO Photolab 9. And I believe I'm on 9.7 build 643 is the current version. And I've also updated the latest drivers for my NVIDIA card. I'm running on a Windows laptop, so that's kind of the basic platform I'm on. And also, I'm an affiliate for DxO, so I do have my affiliate links down below if you'd like to download the Photolab or the Pure Raw or any of the DxO products and give it a try. And if you end up purchasing it, I have a 15% discount code, RobTrek, that you can use. So just be sure to use my affiliate link first and then use the coupon code at the same time, and you can get that discount. And it's for new customers only, and it's greatly appreciated. And what you in addition to that, I do these streams every week. So if you're new to Photolab or thinking about getting Photolab, you can see some of the tools that Photolab has and the results that you can get. And Photolab has been my favorite photo editor, my editor of choice for many years now, long before I was an affiliate. And I continue to use it on a daily basis, and I'm very happy with the results. I think it's the best photo raw editing software out there. And the goal of today is basically to show you the tools that I use, my editing workflow for the photos. And since these are your photos, I think it's the best way to demonstrate what Photolab can do. And every 2 or 3 images, I like to pause and look at the chat section and see if you have any questions about any of the things that I did, any of the tools that I used. I'll do my best to explain or answer any questions you might have. And let me just go to the chat section real quick. And I see Thomas here and Bamsem is here and Jeff. Good to see you guys. Roger, Dan, good morning. Paul. All right. Wow. Happy birthday to my mom. Thank you. I'll pass that on to her, even though she probably has no idea who you are, but I'll let her know. And thank you for the sound check. Sound of video is good. And Robert is here. Good morning. And Henning and Lon. Oh, you're brand new. But you saw enough of previous week to be impressed with Rob's approach. Oh, thank you. I try. You know, my approach is not the only approach, obviously, but it's a workflow that I've come to use over and over again. And really, to improve, you have to have a consistent workflow, and then you can make changes and tweaks from there. So I'll try and think out loud, my thought process as I'm editing the photos. To make this as educational as possible, particularly for new viewers. And we'll go ahead and get started. So let me, as they say, without further ado, I think everything's working well today. So we'll start here, one from Larry Robach. And, oh, wow. I have a little birdie here. It looks like a swallow of some kind that captured a, it's not a dragonfly technically, but it looks like a small dragonfly. Okay, so I think what I'll do is, what I do basically is I look at the overall geometry of the scene, like if I have to straighten the horizon or do any perspective corrections, if it's architectural, and then also the exposure, if it's too bright or too dark, and then the white balance. So I kind of look at the global type major changes that need to be made, things that you can do in camera in the field, and then you just make slight adjustments in post-processing. And raw images are intended to be edited. So I know there's a lot of, not a lot, but I've heard of people saying, if you're not just shooting the straight out of camera raw image, it's not really a photograph. And I'm on the other side of that, where I think raw images are supposed to be edited. And then anything from there, creative choices are up to you, right? And just understand that this is not a critique of photos. I'm just going to edit these the way I would edit them if I had taken the image. So don't take any criticism, but if I see any things that I could suggest in terms of camera settings, things like that. I'll make some suggestions there, but take them with a grain of salt. Everybody has their own approach to what their photograph should be, and has no bearing on whether it's a good or bad photo. It's just simply what I would have done, which is, again, very subjective. So, and then the last thing I look at is also any kind of cropping that I want to do. And this, and the cropping typically is for balance, right? I'll try to find a balance either in lighting or in the objects in the composition that are making it feel kind of heavy on one side. So I try to balance that. And that's just a personal preference. I like balance in lighting and subjects and things in the photo. And then, of course, all the other rules of composition that you can consider, leading lines, spirals, all that stuff comes into play. But for typical wildlife photo, typically I like to just fill the frame, which I think you've done here to a great extent. It's perfectly framed. I might tilt it just slightly. And one other thing is I'm working on presets for Photolab, and I developed a new one, which is sort of a subset of my high-res shot mode for OM system cameras. But I'm just calling it extra detail. And I'm going to be using that a lot today because it seems to be working pretty well. But okay, so I always apply basic preset first. So I have 3 here, one called extra sharp. This is for high-res shot mode, and then this is my default. I'm going to be using this one here a lot today because, I just found it to be, it's pretty good. It gets it 90% of what I would do anyway, right, in terms of sharpening. So I think you can see there's a pretty dramatic difference right there. There's the before and there's the after, and I think it just brings out, makes it nice and crispy, but not too crispy, right? Sometimes I do have to go back into the detail panel and back off some of my settings here. But so far so good. But this is applying optical corrections, sharpening, denoising, and some other very, very minor tweaks. Okay, I'm going to just crop in a little tighter. A lot of times I like a square crop with wildlife subjects and birds. And I think this one is ideal for that. And when I'm looking at balance, I use this basically rule of thirds grid. And I think I'll just center the bird. And I want nice even spacing all the way around. And I think that works pretty well. And a lot of times, just using the mouse, I like to roll in and out. Just back it off and just look at it smaller so it helps me see my lighting and composition a little easier rather than sometimes full screen. But okay, I think this is a good balance. And now with animals, I always like to look at eyes, with birds, the eyes, the beak, and the talons or the feet. And these look pretty good. We'll probably have to lighten up this left side and then darken the background just a tiny bit, maybe just a vignette. So I'm going to go over here to the local adjustment tools, because let me go over here to the global adjustments, which is right here for exposure and color. I rarely have to touch these things when the initial image is already pretty good with exposure and white balance. So 9 times out of 10, the kind of images you guys have been sending me have been perfectly exposed or close enough. And the white balance, the camera's auto white balance usually does a good job. So I rarely have to use these 2 panels for much, really. I can usually just do local adjustments. So with the local adjustments, I do want to bring out the shadow area here a little bit more. and maybe try and bring out a little bit of the color in the eye here, because I do see a little brown ring around the eye for the iris, and then also the head of this, God, I can't remember the name of this thing, but this bug. And maybe, yeah, just the shadows on this side, because we can see some really nice detail in there. So let's just start with the eye. And I'm going to try and drop my control point right on the brown part. And just bring this in. And I like to spread the adjustments I make around the eye as well. So all I'm going to do is maybe tighten up the chroma or the color slider here, the masking, because I just want to affect the brown the most and just bring that out. So I'll push the shadows a bit, maybe the midtones a little bit, because it is pretty bright. And then I'm going to use clear view and micro contrast just to make the eye stand out and look a little bit shiny, right? Or more glassy. And I think that works pretty well. Then let's go over to the beak, and I've been using this auto brush tool over here more often, so let's create a new mask. And I'm just going to auto brush the beak. Just a little bit in here and here. And I think the beak in this case is bright enough. Let's just try some clear view first. Maybe temper the highlights a bit and add a little micro contrast. And I might be able to do the same thing for the feet here. So I'm just going to continue this mask. Maybe we can push the shadows a bit. That shouldn't affect the beak too much. Yeah, that looks fine. I think that's it there. Okay, now let's work on the shadow area here. Debating if I do the AI mask and just select the bird itself. I think this might be too much, but I'm going to try it. If I push the shadows a bit, in the midtones, let me just, and I always try to keep a straight line here in the selective tones. So now that I've brightened it up, we actually need to just warm it up a little bit too, because anytime you add light to a scene, typically, particularly outdoors, when you add light to a scene like I did here, you want to warm it up as well in terms of white balance. So we'll do that. And actually, I'm warming up the entire bird. I don't want to do that. I just want to warm up the shadow areas. Let me just add a little bit less push here. Okay, let me see if I can select the darker areas. I'm going to just use a control point. I might be able to get away with an auto masking brush, but that might be a little too harsh. So I'm just going to use a control point and just kind of walk it around the shadow areas here. And I'm going to tighten up, in this case, the luminosity masking, which is bright and dark. So I'm only affecting the darker areas. So let me bring this in a bit. Okay. So now let's try and warm up this side a little bit. Okay, and I'm just rolling the mouse wheel until it just looks about right. And I'm going to add a little bit more clear view, or maybe just pull the blacks in a little bit. I just need a little bit more contrast in this area. And let's add a little bit more light there. I think right about there looks good. Okay, now let's add a vignette around the bird. And that should temper the highlights on this side a little bit, because these are still a little bit strong. But I'm going to go over here, and let's make a new mask for the vignette. And I always use control points for the vignette, even though I have Film Pack installed, which has a vignette slider. It adds a vignette slider to the Photolab. I still prefer using control points, because I can move the control point around to exactly where I want the vignette to be. So I'm going to turn the chroma and lumen to 0. I'm going to invert this. And then I'm just going to use the selective tone and just pull in sort of in an orderly way. And I just think that looks more natural than using the standard vignette tool. Okay, maybe make it a little tighter. Let me come in a bit. And we'll just pull in even more. Okay, let me go back to my mask for the bird. And I'm going to brighten him up just in a linear fashion. Let's go about 0.6 or 2/3 of a stop. Then we're going to go over here to the global. And I'm going to back this off about the same amount, about 2/3. Maybe, yeah, that's a bit too much. About 1/3. Okay, so I didn't quite get the highlight here down to where I want it, so I'm just going to drop a control point right here, just in here, a little bit tighter on the luma, and just pull the highlights in a bit. Maybe drop one here as well. Okay, I think that's it. So let's do a side by side. And there you have it. So just a little tighter crop and some warming, right, with the sharpening. The only other thing I might change is, you know, this insect is not standing out too well. So I hit the F9 key on my keyboard to pull the panels on the left and right in and out. Let me see if I can make this bug here stand out a bit more. Let me try the auto masking brush. Make a new mask here. I'm going to do this. Oops. Let me erase that. I'm just hitting the Alt key to erase that while I'm clicking on the mouse. Maybe in here too. Let's try clear view, and maybe add some color. Let's try vibrancy, saturation. Okay, I think that's about it. Okay, so let's do a side by side again, but this time we'll do a split. So if I zoom in, just to check the fine details, you can see what a nice job Photolab can do. I think the bug came out pretty good this time. And there's a tiniest bit of noise. If you look over here in the shadow or the soft areas, you can see the chroma noise mostly getting, you know, just taken out completely. Okay, very nice. Very nice shot. All right, let's go to the next one. This one is from William. And bring my panels back in with F9. So this is a Starling. I think it's technically a European Starling. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, I definitely need to straighten and crop in. So first I'm going to apply my basic preset. Actually, I should call it my extra sharp preset because that's what it's going to be called from now on. And let's tilt this. Now you'll notice I clicked on the cropping tool first because it throws in these the rule of third grid lines. It helps me straighten things out. You can also do, I think, a Shift G. It'll bring up a grid. I'm just going to straighten this until it just feels about right. The stick itself that he's standing on can be crooked, but I want the bird to look straight. And usually what I do is I line up the eyes right here. This line going across the eyes, that's usually where I like it to be straight. And that looks pretty good. All right, let's switch over to a 1x1. And then I'm going to just balance the negative space around the Starling. And we'll just do front and center. I think that feels about right. Maybe a little bit less off the top. All right, good. Now, are the eyes open or closed? Oh, they are open. I can see a little bit of iris on the left and right. Okay, so starlings are really, really colorful. So I'm going to really push the color on the starling itself. So let me go ahead and just select the bird, just using the AI tool. And I'm just going to push the vibrancy and saturation. I always like to start with vibrancy because sometimes that does the job. If not, then I can go into saturation and add a little more. I think right about there. Okay, now let's work on the eyes and see if we can bring out the iris a little bit. So let's create a new mask and zoom in. And there's just a tiny bit of brown iris in there. So we'll go here, make sure I got the control point right on that brown. And over here, a little bit of brown. And we'll just come out a tiny bit. Because the feathers have a little bit of brown in them too, I don't want to go too wide on the control point. Let's see if we can do anything. Yeah, right about there. Add some clear view and micro contrast. And just back that off a tiny bit. Maybe add some midtone. Okay, so I'm going to come back out, make sure it doesn't look like his eyes are glowing. Okay, not bad. They are glowing a little bit. I'll just back this off. Just a tiny bit. So there's something. Okay. So the background looks good. I think all I want to do is maybe just temper everything else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here to the AI mask that I use for the bird, right click it, and then duplicate it. And I'm going to move this up. Well, let's see. I think I have to create a new mask. So we'll do plus here. Then I'll drag this into mask 3. Okay, so now the mask copy is here, but I'm going to invert it. And then let's just start pulling the exposure down a bit. Not too much. But just a little bit, because it's a little bit bright. I might have to do a little bit more on the stick. So let's make a new mask. I'll highlight the stick. I'm going to do this one a little differently. I'm going to start with the blacks. Just so it looks a little bit more in line with the bird. Okay. Let me just do a quick. So I'm going to temper the highlights right here. It's a little bit too shiny. So let's make a new mask and a control point. And just see if we can temper this side just a bit. Maybe back off the micro contrast. Okay. Very subtle. And I'm going to go back to the background mask that I created. This one. Let's pull the blacks in and see. Let's go the same direction we did with the stick. No. I think that works. Right about there. Okay, we'll call it there. So there's the before and after. Just a tighter crop and some color, right? I could throw in a vignette, but I think the background is fine. And we'll do a slider just to see the comparison here. But I think that came out really nice. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Thank you, William. And this one is from Serge. Okay, so we have a church, I believe, here in the back. But a house or a church or something. And it's really, really soft. So there's some haze or fog or something. I mean, the contrast is very low. And I'm guessing it's a church because of the pane glass windows. See if we can bring out some of the color in that window. That would be nice. And there's some nice greens in this tree. The only distracting element is this over here, because it's just kind of dropping into the frame without really adding anything to it. So I don't know, I might brush that out a little bit. And it'd have been nice to get a little bit more of the right side here because it's very, very tight. You can see over here the building ends here. It's very, very tight. So I'm not sure. Let me think. I'm trying to think of a balanced composition. Being very tight here on the right side makes it hard for me to balance this. So I think I might crop this right side out and just focus. I love these trees and the front of this with the pane glass windows. And this part, I'll just brush a little bit off here. So I'll probably have to do a vertical. So let's apply basic preset or my extra sharp preset. And then I'm going to try vertical. See how much of the front. If I come over to about here, I can easily brush out the little bit that's here. Now I'm going to keep this one trunk in the frame. Let me try 5x4. Yeah, that works. I'll just come over here. Maybe come a little bit off the top. Okay, that feels about right. Let me see my perspective thing does. It doesn't do anything. So everything is pretty straight. All right. Now, before I do any kind of brushing out, like this, right? Like I could brush that out, something like that, right? I like to do all of the color and exposure type changes first. So I've done the geometry where I've cropped in. The white balance is fine. The exposure is good. So I think we just have to go in and just make this scene a little bit more contrasty. So I'm going to use control points to pull in the darker areas. And then I'm going to work on the windows to bring out the colors. And then I'm going to brush out these little twigs here. Okay. I'm just going to do a quick push on clear view. All right. Let me leave that back around. I had it around 10. I'm going to try and select this building. Oh, not so much there. Let's try the rectangle tool. That's fine. I'm getting a little bit of the tree, or a lot of the tree in there, but that's okay. I want to increase the detail on the tree and the stonework there. So let's push the clear view just a bit more there. The micro contrast. And then some vibrancy. Okay. Let me just get in close and look again. Let me go back to the vibrancy, or let's try some saturation. And just a slight tuck on the highlights. Okay. And I'm going to add in, so you can see the masking between on the roof. It missed all of this in here, so I'm going to add a little bit. So I'm just going to add a submask. Let me see if I can grab it this way and this way. Nope. Let's just use a brush. Let me see the mask here. Oh, actually it did grab in there. So that must be a shadow causing that change. All right, so we'll leave it. That's a shadow. Because if I look at the masking, I did get that area that I wanted. Okay. The front of this, I think, the front of the building could be a little bit brighter too. Let's see if I can get just the front. We'll just push it just a tiny bit brighter and a tiny bit warmer. Like that. Okay. Now let's work on the windows. So I'm going to make a new mask. I'll just use the masking brush. Well, the AI tool will probably grab the windows. So I'll do that. I'm going to hit the shift key and just grab the rest of the windows like this. Maybe the door too. Let's do the door separately. All right, so I'm going to try some micro contrast first. Let's just zoom in and make sure we're doing what we want. Let's push the highlights and midtones and shadow. Might be too much. Just like with the bird's eyes, I don't want things to look like they're glowing. Not in a daytime shot anyway. At night, I like to make things look like they're glowing. Let's see if we can get the color to come out just a little bit. I wonder if I can do the same thing. Let me do shift. Okay, not bad. See how that looks. That looks okay. Let's do a little bit on the door. Let's make a new mask for the door. Use the AI tool to select that. I think all it needs is some clear view, maybe. Some micro contrast. And just a tiny bit of warmth. All right, okay, so this building is standing out nicely now, but it's very contrasty and crispy compared to the rest of the scene, right? So I want to do kind of the same thing to the rest of the scene, but in a more selective way. Let's go back up here. We'll make a new mask. And let's just do a little bit of painting in here. Okay. We're going to pull in these shadows a bit. Why is the door getting affected? I guess one of these control points is bleeding in there too much. Try some clear view. Maybe a little bit of contrast. Let's bring this in just gradually. And a little bit up here. Because there seems to be like just a little splash of light right in this area. So I'm just trying to keep that going. And I like the rocks down here. They need a little bit of warming. Let me get to the water real quick. I can just use the AI tool for that. And some clear view. Maybe just pull it in a bit and add a little bit of coolness. And let's feather that just a bit. Okay. Then these rocks here just need a little bit of warmth. Let me try some control points. No, maybe this masking brush will be all right. I can just kind of just select the areas that I want to mess with. I'm going to add a little bit of warmth here. Okay, let me subtract some off of this. Okay. Good. We don't need much there, but all right. This area up in here could use a control point just to give it maybe some clear view. And just maybe some contrast and a little more warmth. Okay. And let's see, let's try that on this tree over here and down here. A little bit over there. Oh, that was a bit too much. What I'll do is I'll just tighten this up by luminosity a bit. Let's try that again. Maybe. No, I'll do a separate one. Let's make a new mask. I just want this area a little bit darker. Like that. And there's a little bit of reds in there. Let me see if I can bring that out. Okay. Let's see where we're at. Okay, the church is just still a little bit, it's a little bit hot here. So I'm just going to touch on that. Let me get a control point. Just temper that a little bit. Okay, and then the trees, I think the trees are okay. I like this one trunk though. Let me see if I can bring that out a bit more. I'll just use a masking brush and just go in here on this tree. I'm going to bring that out a bit more. And let's try a little bit of color. If I shift it red a little bit. Nah, it's not doing much. Maybe a little bit green. Okay. And then one last thing, maybe counterintuitive. Let me go over here to the global thing and reverse the micro contrast. Just a little bit. Because the scene overall was just a little bit too crispy. But I don't want to lose all the individual work that I did, so I'm just going to the global side and softening the image overall. All right, now that I've got, I think, most of the adjustments done, I feel like it needs to be a little bit more, but I think we're okay. I'm just going to fix these little twigs here. Hopefully these will clean up nice. So I got brush. Let's try repair. We'll just do a little bit at a time. Move this over. Okay. A little bit there. And then this one. A little bit more there. All right. And then on a global scale, let me look at some colors. If I went with vibrant, no, vivid, maybe. Natural, I like the brightness of the natural, so I'm going to go back to vibrant and then just increase the contrast maybe on a global basis. We'll give a little bit extra push to the highlights, tiny bit to the mid-tone, and a slight pull on the blacks. All right, let's call it there. Maybe a little bit warmer overall. Okay. So there's the before and after. So the primary reason for my crop again was really just this right side was a little bit too tight up against the edge, to the point that it would look odd if I left it, at least for me. And I love the tree trunks here, so I wanted to make sure I kept those in. Probably could have highlighted this one a little bit more too, but the main thing was the building was just everything was kind of soft and hazy. I assume there was a fog or something here, which I totally eliminated. A subjective choice, certainly, to get rid of the fogginess of the scene. But I think that came out pretty nice. At least this is how I would have edited the image. And it was important for me to bring out the colors here and the texture of the stonework. I'm glad you got the front door. Front door is actually brown, isn't it? And it just, I should probably go back and fix the white balance on these two things. But other than that, I think it looks pretty good. Definitely getting rid of those little twigs on the left side was a big help. All right, let's see, this next one here. This is a JPEG. So this is a you know, sort of a corporate type shot, right? So typically with these kind of shots, you usually want to leave a lot of, you know, space for, what do you call it? You know, text and other copy and media that you want to add to this. And these are typically shot wider for that reason, so that you can, you know, use it both on social media that uses vertical content and also websites, which are usually more landscapey, right? But in any case, I'm going to treat this more like a portrait shot than a corporate or business type shot. And try and soften the skin, get rid of some of the speculars, and then minimize the background to some extent. And maybe highlight some of the areas here. It's a little bit hot right in here. Let me just apply basic preset. And because this is a JPEG, actually I don't want to apply my extra sharp. Let's do my default. And since I'm not going to treat this like a business shot, I'm going to crop in a bit tighter. Like I said, more like a corporate shot. Something in here. So we have a nice breakdown. We have our head in the top third, the money here, and our hands in the middle, and then the table and these pills in the bottom third. Simple rule of thirds composition. Maybe a slight straightening. I feel like we just need a slight tilt this way. And come off the bottom a little bit. Like so. And typically I like the center, which is this little box right here, to be right over the nose. Let me see, maybe come even a little bit tighter. Okay. Now the color, I'm going to try the portrait. Yeah, I like this one. The portrait color profile DxO has is really good for skin tones. I really like that. Okay, and then from here, let's go to some local adjustments. Maybe what if I do people? Hopefully this won't crash. It's been pretty good lately, but yeah, it works. That works pretty well. Let me invert that. And let's just pull this down a bit. Like that. Okay, that's good. And then, now the other thing in this shot is the speculars are fine on these glassy and plasticky shiny things, but on the skin, I like to try to minimize that. So let's go over here to the healing brush. And we need to work on the eyes a little bit. But we're going to use repair, but I'm going to turn the opacity down to about half, between 40 and 50%. And then I'm going to just do a little test area here. And let's move this over to just a softer part of the skin. Let's see. Maybe use a smaller brush. And we'll try over here. So you see the difference there? Just a little bit. I'm going to back it off. Maybe let's try 40%. Okay, so let's do that for all these little other areas here, like right there, right there, right there, a little bit there. I'm sure there's AI software that does all this automatically now. You know how it is these days. There might be a plugin or something you can get. But let me see how that's looking so far. Oops, this one is off. Let's move that here. And then a little bit here. And then let's get rid of this one wrinkle. And then I can try and soften these wrinkles a little bit here. Okay. Now let's do the same thing for the arm. I'm going to minimize this now that I have the settings. You can minimize the repair tool just clicking over there. This one's going to be a little tougher. So let me see how that looks. Yeah, if this were a raw image, this would come out a little bit cleaner. Okay. I think that's about it. Okay. All right, so let's go back to, what is this mask again? Let me see. Yeah, that's the opposite. Let's do another one. And this time, let's select the skin. And we'll just pull the micro contrast back a little bit. And then add a little bit of brightening in here. This left side of her is a little bit, sorry, this left side is still a little bit too bright relative to her face. I don't think I can fix it though. Let me pick a bright area. We'll spread that to about there. Yeah, as a JPEG, it's not gonna come out too clean, but I do want to just temper that a bit. Okay. Let me see where we're at. All right, last thing is the eyes, right? She has really good teeth, so I don't have to do much there. But I'm going to use the masking tool and just kind of get in here where the pupils are. Let's just do a little bit of a push. Not so much. It looks like she has glowing eyes. I think right about there. Maybe. And there's a little bit of redness in there, so I'm going to select the reds, maybe a little bit into the oranges. Just desaturate that a bit. So I do that a lot when people have like red veins and things in their eyes. I'll just select the red orange area. All right, I think that's it. So let's do a side by side. So as a, you know, this is still a corporate shot, but basically I just tried to soften the skin a bit here with the highlights, because you'll notice over here, excuse me, there's some pretty strong speculars here. So I just tempered those a bit. I need to do a little bit more on the nose. But if this were a raw image, it would have been a little bit cleaner. It looks a little pasty if I do it with JPEGs, but with raw images, softening those highlights like that come out really, really good using that technique. And then you'll notice the skin tones are very different. I really like the portrait color profile in the Photolab. It gets rid of this, you know, stronger reds that we see in here and just makes them a little bit more natural in my opinion. And this works for all skin tones and colors. And then brightening the eyes a tiny bit, right? And I just like a little bit tighter crop because it's not wide enough as it is to be a corporate shot. But if it'd be easy enough to take this into Photoshop, which is like a full-on, you know, it has, where you can expand the canvas. It's more of a graphical editor tool as well. And I'm sure there's other software out there that you could do that. But normally you would take this image and delete the background and just put in a white backdrop with some text that the client could use. Because this is clearly for something, right? This is not just a random portrait shot. But okay, very nice. But I just like the little tighter crop since I'm not going to use the Photoshop tools and things to expand this. But that's what I would do for a client. So I would cut out the background and expand it to wide or tall, right? And give them options. All right, let me just check the chat section real quick and see if there's any questions here. So I left off somewhere here around Larry. Larry, good to see you. Oh, you have to leave. Okay, no biggie. And yes, we established I share your birthday with your mom on our walk. I turned senior. Oh, happy birthday. That's right. You're the third person that has a birthday today that I know. It's my mom, you, and another person in my photo club, another friend of mine. It's ironic. Not ironic. It's a big coincidence, though. Black Phoebe Flycatcher, thank you. That bug in that swallow's mouth. And the audio's good. And hi from Rainy Hills of Manchester. Oh, John, good to see you. And good morning, Heather. Good to see you. And Kevin, good to see you. And I did get an email from you recently. I'm sorry I haven't replied. I haven't read it yet, but I did see some email from you, so I'll try to remember to look at that today. And then Heather, oh, thank you, Heather. I really appreciate that. So that's the best way to support these live streams, right? Other than using the affiliate links down below to buy DxO products, but just become a member. For 99 cents a month, I can edit your photos, right? Whether you're a member or not, I edit your photos, but this is a way to support the work that I'm doing. And Mon says, hi all, earlier I asked about DxO 8 is crashing. I had to download NVIDIA Studio 5979. And just like that, everything is working fine and stable. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean, with every update, always double check your video card drivers, right? So good advice, and I'm glad that's working for you now. And Anthony's here. Good to see you. And Heather says, I submitted a Woodstock photo late. Would be great if you have time to. I'll try, Heather. A nice edit of the church. Okay, thank you. And then Lon says, when you test a series of control points and then decide to remove one, how are you selecting the delete? Oh, okay. So very easy, right? So let's go back and edit this image. And I'll bring up my control panels. So I'll make a new layer with some new control points. So I'm going to just add them all over here, right? So all I have to do is move my mouse over. Let's say I want to delete this one. I just select it and hit the delete key. Oh, you're not seeing the screen. Hold on. Let me start over. So with this image here, right, let's make a new layer. And then I'm going to just drop some new control points in here, right? And let's just make them big black circles like that. So you can see I have 6 control points, and I want to get rid of this one on her arm. So I can select that one, just click on it with the mouse, and it highlights kind of blue. These are kind of gray right now, but if I click on it, there's kind of a blue ring here. So I just hit the delete key on my keyboard, and then it's gone. And then let's say this one over here on the cabinets, I can delete that one, or I can go down here to this bottom one. So that's how I'm deleting individual control points. Or I can just delete the entire mask right here. like that. Because usually the control points, right, you'll notice, I think this is where the question is like, I'm dropping all these control points everywhere, but in the mask, you only see one line item here. You don't see 6 control points, you see 1, because all of these are linked together to do the same thing, right? But, you know, after you're done, you might say, oh, I don't want this one. So you just select it and delete it. And you'll notice that the mask doesn't change. It still shows 1. So, good question. Good question, actually. Even though it's very simple to implement. And Shri is here. Good morning. And give a thumbs up. Oh, I appreciate that. And okay, Lon, no problem. Hopefully that made sense. All right, let's go to the next one here. So I have a green arrow here, which means I don't have the optics module installed for this particular camera lens combination. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And it's going to give me a choice here. So I'm going to do next and download. And this usually is pretty fast. I mean, I've never had it take more than 10 or 15 seconds in the past. But a long time ago, when I was on DxO Photolab 4, 5, 6, it did take a while sometimes, but it's been pretty good since version 7. All right, nice Astro photo here. This looks like a single shot, 20 seconds, ISO 800. On the M1 Mark III, I believe you should shoot at ISO 1000. That'll give you the same noise level as ISO 800, but it'll let you use faster shutter speeds or gather more light. Just a little tip there for Astro, specifically for the OM system cameras and Olympus cameras that use the 20 megapixel sensor, all the way starting with the Pen F, going to the EM1s, to the OM1s, OM3. ISO 1000 is kind of that sweet spot in ISO. Test for yourself and see what you think, but there's I have a lot of data points that say that's a good place to start, ISO 1000. Okay, so let's apply a basic preset, a default preset that I have here, which is optical corrections and noise reduction. And I'm just going to punch in and just double check that I'm not losing too much color and too many stars with the noise reduction. So I'm losing some color. So if you look closely, stars are very, very colorful. This is not chromatic aberrations typically. These are stars and they all have different colors. And when I applied the noise correction, you can see, like right here, this is blue, this is kind of red, this is yellow. If I let go, all of them are white now, which is what I want to try to avoid. So let me see. I haven't done an Astro image in a while. Let me check this area. But like here, you could have probably went to ISO 1000 and shot it maybe 15 seconds and got less eggshells, you know, when I punch in like this. And that's why I was saying at ISO 1000. But anyway, let me check in this area. There's some good colors in here. All right, this is a good one to test. A lot of yellows and blues and a little bit of red here. So let me just turn this to 0. Go to advanced settings. Let's see if there's anything else. Dead pixels is off. Let me turn off the bokeh. Yeah, that's not doing anything. Turn off chromatic aberrations. Okay, that's keeping some of the color a little better, but still reducing the noise. All right, let me go up to the corner. This is typically where you see purple fringing and stuff. There's definitely some chroma happening. And we're not getting anywhere with this tool, so I'm going to leave this turned off. It did help a little bit. It's not affecting the color, I don't think. Let me just check again. A little bit, but that's okay. So I think we're okay there. All right, red eye. Well, this looks good. Let me do... That's chromatic aberration. Yeah, I'm just going to turn that all the way to 0. And then if I increase the vibrancy, yeah, that brings the color back. Okay. So we'll just add a little bit there. All right. All right, very good. Now I'm happy. It's a nice shoreline down here. Is that a beach with water or is that snow? Can't tell. Maybe we'll just work on the background for a little bit while I'm thinking about the foreground a little bit while I'm thinking about I don't know if it's worth it to bring this in. Not really. I think just feathering it this way is fine. Let me feather it this way. Okay, let's do the sky. Do another control line. Just feather it this way. Let's make sure I select a very dark area here. Tighten up the chroma a bit. Okay. And then I'll make that blacker. And then let's see if we can bring out the Milky Way. So let's try a control point. Tighten up the luminosity. The chroma. These are always tough. Okay. A little bit less here. Okay. Looking good. Dash of clear view, a little bit of contrast. Not that much. Let me go back. Okay. Now I need to, what's the white balance set to? 37. Let's do daylight. And a little bit too much magenta here. So I'm going to go down here and just select, that's orange. I guess it looks magenta to me, but it's orange. Let's back that off a bit. That's not going to work. Maybe if we shift it a little bit green. All right, hold on. Let me go back to the... So what I need actually, let me look at all my local adjustments. I kind of overdid it right in here. I think it's this one. No, it's not this one. It's a little bit of that one. It's not that one. Is it? Okay. It's not that one. One of these is kind of not giving me a look that I want. It's not that. It's got to be the control points. Yeah, so let me go back to these. I need to make these smaller and higher, I think. And then let's go back to this one. Let's make a new control line right in here. Just on the oranges, I think. All right. This one, a little bit too much green. All right. Go back to my control points. All right. I think that's about it. I really haven't been killing it lately with the Astro photos. But I'm going to go with this. Okay. So there's my before and after. So apparently there is a little bit of an orange glow in addition to that green. And, you know, by brightening it up, you can see all of that. And then I just needed to amplify the Milky Way. So I did that very selectively with the control points by making sure I drop it on kind of the grayish areas. Like you can see it's a little bit gray, you know, in some parts, and that's where I tried to drop the control points. Say versus this is darker here than it is here. So I dropped the control points all along this Milky Way just to kind of do that and then tighten up the control point luminosity masking. I also minimized the noise reduction because it was you know, pulling out some of the colors in the individual stars as well. So that was important. But yeah, I think that looks okay. Not bad. Maybe a little bit too crispy on the stars, but yeah, that looks all right. So I think this is all snow down here, now that I was able to brighten it up. But okay. Let me check something real quick. I feel like everything's streaming okay. All right. Whew, so I only did 5 photos in an hour and 20. So I'm gonna have to go through these a little bit quicker. Because there's a bunch more here. Okay, so what is this down here? Oh, this is a part of the drainage. It's a really interesting house on the side. I like this and this. And this little great gradation here from the ground up. It's almost like they had their own vineyard down here too. Okay. So let's crop out this fence, maybe somewhere along this tree line. And okay, so I'm going to do a preset first. I'll just do a default. I really only use the extra sharp preset that I have for birds and wildlife, where we have fur and feathers. For normal scenes like this, I typically haven't been using it, I should say, because I don't want it to be too crispy. So let's try a 16 by 9. I guess maybe just come in a little tighter. You don't need to see everything. And just balance it. So we have sort of the steps here in the lower third, the house here in the middle, and then this balances to the right. A little tighter. So I want to make sure I see the details in the house. I really like all these little fine details. Oh, wow, I just noticed this was shot on an old XZ1. That's cool. So I think that works. So let's accentuate the colors a bit. Let me go back over here to the color panel. Let's try vibrant. And then let's add some vibrancy. I think this will be a quick edit, and I'm just going to add some contrast with the selective tone. A tiny bit of clear view. So did I apply my, yeah, I did apply all of this. Sharpening looks good. I think that's all this shot needs. So let's do a side by side. So in this frame, right, the house is kind of small, and then of course there's this fence line or something here which is distracting. So I just kind of cropped in, kept this tree or bush, but I wanted the house to be, you know, a little more saturated to bring out some of the different textures, because you got like this minty green and pink, and then this bluish sky blue over here, really nice blue water tank down here, and this red dumpster. So there's a lot of interesting details, and we can just kind of check the fine details. And even on an old camera like this one, you can see how much DxO can really bring out. I think this was a 10 megapixel sensor too. But I think that works, and it's nicely balanced with the scene in multiple directions, I think. All right, whoops. So that was from Murat. Oh, hey, Murat. It's been a while, but thank you for sending that one. And let's see, Shakabe has a macro shot here. EM1. So yeah, that's right. You told me you bought a macro lens, but it's not a, it's a manual focus one, right? My chat window. Let me check something. Okay, there we go. All right. So let's do extra sharp on this one. And see. Ooh, it's a tiny bit of softness here. I might have to work on this a bit more. Let me go to my sharpening panel, detail panel. Because this doesn't have an optics module for these adapted lenses or manual focus lenses, I have to really do a lot of the work myself here with the sharpening. Okay, let's also crank up some of this chromatic aberration stuff too. And then we don't really need any noise reduction, really. Well, a little bit. Yeah, right about there. Okay, that looks good. So let's go ahead and select the spider and just make him about a half a stop brighter. Maybe go in here and just pull back a little bit. Go back here, make them a little bit brighter. Right there's good, but let's use this. And just add some micro contrast. Then we'll just crop in, I think a square crop. It's fine. Maybe we don't need to darken that. Okay. So pretty straightforward. Just a square crop, right? And then adjusting the fine details. So we can do a split. So it's almost like there's a tiny bit of motion blur, but not 100% on that. It might be the lens itself. I forget what lens this was. I remember you had this lens before. It might be the lens I recommended, actually. You know, this 4.5x macro, but I can't remember. But I feel like there's this tiniest bit of motion blur in this shot. But overall, it looks really good. Okay. And Shakib, I know, sent in his edit, so let's look at that real quick side by side. We can compare what he did to mine. So if I set this one as a reference, something's not right. Compare. Use current image as reference. Let me see something. Okay. There we go. So there's Shakib's edit on the right. He went a little bit brighter and softer, and then my typical style is punchy, right? More contrast and richer colors. Both, I think, are legit edits. On yours, I can see a little more green in here. But that looks good. Okay. So let's go back to the next one. And this one, we have an eagle. So let's apply basic preset. I'll use my extra sharp. Let's go ahead and crop in. And we'll just make this nice and tight. Like so, maybe tilt it so the wings are going more into the corners. Okay. So all we have to do is maybe temper the highlights, bring up the shadows a bit. So let me go ahead and select the bird. Let's try pushing the shadows. And then bring in some micro contrast. Maybe a little bit of clear view. And just a hair bit of warmth. Okay. And then I'm going to use the masking brush. Let's make a new mask. The eye, I don't think I can save that, but I'll try. Bring that in. Let's let's just push the white balance a little bit. Okay. And then I'm going to use the masking brush again for the highlights. Let me just get in here. Okay. Okay, that's good. So where are we at? Oops. compare. Let's do with geometry. All right, let's just add a little bit more light to the bottom. So I'm gonna go in here. Let's tighten up the chroma and luma just a bit. And drop this on the brighter part here and here. And let's just push this just a bit. How about under the chin just a bit? Okay, and then let's do the talons. Maybe a new mask, use the masking brush and just give the talons a little bit of a little attention here. Maybe a little bit of vibrance. All right, let me see where we're at. All right, good. I think I'll call it there. So if I compare this with without cropping it, so there's the original. Oh, I could crop in a little bit more on the right. Let me do that real quick. All right. So that's the original on the left. Here we're on the right. I think, you know, the shadow areas are a bit too strong. Sometimes it's hard to tell until you just start looking at it. Let me go back to my mask where I was working on the shadow. It was this one. Let me, I don't know if it needs more clear view. Just what? Where were we at? We're at 57. Let's do 59. And then let me go back to the head and tail. And let's cool that off a bit. There's one other mask. I was doing the chin. Yeah, this one. Let's cool that off a bit. Okay, now I'm done. So let's do a check with the details. Yeah, so I think that looks pretty good. And then we'll do a slider just to see how we did with the fine details. Of course, we got rid of all of the noise, and we pulled out all of the feather details here as well, especially down in here. So I think that came out good. Look along the wing. That looks pretty good. Okay. Let's go to the next one. This one is from Paul. All right, so let's apply an extra sharp preset. I can tell it's a little bit off. Let's do a perspective. There we go. So I just clicked the auto perspective tool. And we might need to temper the highlight here on this building because I can see a lot of windows in the reflection. But let me go ahead and select the water here. The AI tool's not doing it, so let's try with... we might have to do it a different way. Let's just do it with a control line. Like that. Because sometimes the AI tool and the masking tools just can't figure out what's what, right? Like in a reflection. So I'm just going to do that. Just pull it in a bit. Okay, that looks good. And then let's add another mask. I'm going to use a control line for this tower. Let me pick the brightest part. And let's just pull in the highlights. I'm going to tighten up the Luma mask a bit. Ooh. Where's my dropper? Is it on a bright part or not? How about up here? Okay, good. Not much. Most of that is clipped. Probably should have shot maybe another stop faster, right? Instead of like half a second, shoot it 1/4 second. Just if you wanted to preserve the highlights there. Let me make a new mask. Let me bring up this clock a little bit. That's fine. I want to bring out the reds and textures right in here on this building. I bet the AI tool can figure that out. Let me try. More or less. Let me go out a little bit. Yeah, I got most of it. I'm just going to use the shift key and just see if I can get more of it in there. Yeah, that's good. And let's do micro contrast. Let's temper the highlights a bit and give it some vibrancy. And a little bit of saturation. Okay, and then we're just going to light paint a little bit. Let me grab the windows here. Whoops, let's try some clear view on that one. And this building's a little bit flat, so I'm gonna make a new mask. Let's grab this building. We'll give it some like that. Same thing over here. Same thing on this one. Maybe this front of this. All right, let's see where we're at. So I like the composition overall. Let me just see. What I want to do is just center it a little bit more. Right there. And let's bring that out. Okay, and then let's try smart lighting. Yeah, that just did a tiny bit. I need a little bit more in the midtone. and shadow. No, not that. Maybe just a tiny bit more in the shadows. Okay. All right, let's call it there. Oops. So yeah, just a little bit of saturation and contrast, right? And a slight crop with perspective correction. Did a really good job centering it and keeping the lines straight. So almost perfect. I assume this was on a tripod. If you did this handheld, good job. Because I only had to do some very minor adjustments in terms of the perspective and centering. But let's do a slider, and we can just see, because I was really concerned about the brickwork down in here. So yeah, I'm curious, were you on a tripod or did you handhold this? I didn't even see if this was a high-res shot. You can almost read the lettering here in the building. Curtis Lewis or something, right? Oh, handheld. Good job. Really good. But okay, very good. Pretty impressive. All right, let's see. Jeff Painter. Nice little bumblebee shot on one of these clover flowers. Let's apply basic preset or extra sharp preset. I'm just going to come in a little tighter, right about there to balance the negative space. I think that works. And we'll just brighten up the bee a little bit. I don't think this image needs much. So the AI tool did a good job selecting it. A little bit of clear view. And some vibrancy and micro contrast. And maybe I'll just drop a vignette. Do a vignette somewhere in this area. So invert it, set these to 0. Just do a little bit there. Okay, side by side. So slight crop. Actually, probably a little tighter crop would be fine. I can still do that. Let me do that. We don't need a lot of the oops. Just a little bit down. Okay, that's better. So compared to the original, I think a nice tight crop works because the image is pretty sharp. And then we can do a slider and just compare and see the detail. So my extra fine preset, I'm glad you guys sent in a good variety today. I can really test it. I think it's working pretty well. So I'll put all my presets together and send them out to you guys. But I think this one is ready. But that came out pretty good. Okay. And then the next one here, let's see. Interesting. This horizon is definitely crooked, but if let me just do a regular preset. And if I straighten this horizon, it's going to crop out her legs. But that's okay. Maybe that's okay. Let's do 5 by 4. Almost. Let's try that. It's too bad her legs are kind of cut off a little bit. I can come up a little bit higher, but I don't want, maybe something like that. And let me do the water. Make it a little bit cooler. Oh, and let's not do it too much. We'll start to get some haloing. Just temper the highlights. Let's duplicate this mask and drag it into in its own layer. And I'm going to invert it. Let's see if we can. Oh, missed a spot right in here. Let me go back to the original. What's the original mask? Okay, so we need to add a submask and add that little spot inside. I'll probably do it with this. Does that work or not? Submask. Oops. Mask 1. Submask. Auto brush. There we go. It's struggling a bit. Maybe a control, maybe just a regular brush. Okay, good enough. Let's go back here. All right. Let's submask. Well, can I use? Good. I'm spending too much time on that, but that looks good. Okay, so let's just brighten this up a little more. About 2/3 of a stop. A little push in the shadows, midtones, highlights. Okay, and then let's make a new mask. I'm going to just drop a control point on the face. And just add a little bit more brightness there. And let's do a little bit more on the boat. So I just used the AI tool. Bit of warmth there. Okay. I go back to the water, right? This, let me feather it just a bit. Not do such a harsh change there. I think that will do. Let me see. Okay. Let me do one more thing. I want to highlight the green here. And maybe try a portrait. I think portrait 2 looks good. I could even try a LUT. Let me see if there's an interesting LUT for this. No. That's not bad. Let me check. Let me check the premium ones. And these are included with DxO. Something cooler? Yeah, that looks good. That's not bad. That looks very vintage. Ooh, faded amber's not bad. I like that one. And then some black and whites. No, I think this either faded amber or oops. Cold Sovereignty. Arctic Embrace or Faded Amber. I'm going to go with this one. This has a filmy kind of look to it, I think. All right, let's do a side by side. So yeah, clearly a crop. I just got rid of these buoys. This whole horizon just wasn't necessary. I mean, the fact that she's standing here, kind of, you already know they're near the shore. That he's not like out lost to sea and she's just walking on water. And I like the color processing of that LUT. I think it looks pretty good. So good job on the exposure overall. I don't think you could have done much better in terms of balancing the highlights and shadows for a single shot. Because there are, you know, the water's really bright relative to the people there. So really good job there with the exposure, I think, and dialing that in just right. Either you did it or the camera did it, but good movement there. So I think that came out pretty good. We could do a slider. Not that this shot really needs to have a detailed look, but you know, I wanted to bring out the boat in particular. And yeah, you can see his eyes are open now. And I really now you can really see what that LUT did with the colors. Kind of muted the colors on one hand and then it shifted them a little bit on the other. Okay, very good. Let's go with the next one. And let's see, we have a landscape. A lot of haze in this shot. Whoops. So let's start with a basic preset. Let's do a regular. I don't need a high res. And I've done this shot you know, or this scene many times. This is from, oh, John. Okay, John. Sometimes a little wider, sometimes a little tighter, but kind of from the same angle. Let's see. The water here is definitely clipped. I think we're pretty level. Based on the tree line, I feel like we're level. Maybe a slight tilt to the right, but I'm not, I don't think we need to do anything there. Let's try a wide shot without the sky. And then we'll accentuate some of the God rays here and the warmth. I don't know if I should do control points. If I do a brush, and what's my opacity? My flow is 20%. Okay. We'll start with that. Let's just try warming up this area. Like, yeah, that's a bit too much because we were at 5,000. Let's try a full Kelvin. I don't think I can save the water. Let me go over here to the water. I don't think, yeah, that's completely clipped, so that's gone. So I have to leave that the way it is. But I think what we can do is I'll use a control point or a control line, and we're just going to feather some clear view in there. So let's put this on the brightest part, but let's back off the luminosity a little bit here, and then see if we can just minimize some of the haze in the foreground. Okay. Let's back off the chroma. Just going to back this off until it looks about right. I think that's good. Right about there. Yeah. And then let's add a little bit of warmth, but I'm going to make a new control line. So new mask, new control line, but this time in the tree line. Right in here. Let's pick one of the brighter areas, tighten up the luma. Yeah, I think that's good. Let's brighten that up. And then add some warmth. Oh, not that much. Okay. You just back it off a little bit on that side. Okay. Oh, there we go. I'm going to add a submask. I really want a little bit more in here. It's a little bit too strong. I might have to do a separate delete that. Let me do a separate mask with control points. Right about there. Okay, that looks good. If I do a little bit in here, no. Get rid of that. All right, where's my God rays? Here. Let's try some clear view. And look at this mask again. And a little bit more warmth. A little bit there. A little bit there. Okay, let me, yeah. I think we're okay, but it's a little bit heavy up here in the front. So, what mask was it again? It's this one. I'm going to get my negative brush here. And let's flow that down to 10%. I'm just going to just subtract a little bit from there. Okay, good. All right, let's try a little saturation, maybe vibrant, okay, and some vibrancy. And I think we're good. So, yeah, the clouds are going to be clipped up here, just like the water was. And so I didn't see any reason to keep it. But I did want to keep the softness of this haze, right? That's going to the mountains to give you some sense of depth. But also, that's why I tried to emphasize sort of the clear view here in the foreground and contrast, but not trying to put too much contrast back here. And then just dropping a little bit light in here and along in here, and then from these God rays coming down up here by using, you know, micro contrast or clear view, mostly clear view, to kind of bring out the contrast over there. And I think I just use my default preset, but an image like this, we're not trying to go into fine details so much, but I thought I'd just share it. You can get some nice detail, you know, even in a shot like this that's taken from very far away, because with landscape shots, you know, at this kind of distance, a lot of times atmospheric distortion just, you know, mitigates any sharpness and details that you would get otherwise, because it's just so far away. And the fact that this is very hazy in the scene, it definitely makes it harder to extract details. But okay, and I think the 16:9 crop works okay. All right, and then I think I promised I'd do Heather's shot. So let me go grab that real quick, and then we'll call it. So if I go here. Oh, Paul sent his edit too. So let me download that so you can see his versus mine. Save that. 1 second. Whoops, download. Okay. Oh, did I not download the optics module for this? Sorry about that, John. Let me do that real quick. Wow, the EM1X. I'm curious to see how this looks now. Maybe a tiny bit more detail, definitely, with the optics module. Sorry about that, John. I meant to download that. But I think, yeah, we definitely got some more detail with the optics module. Like right up here in this trees up here. Really looks good. All right, let's see Paul's edit, and then we'll do Heather's. So this was my edit. So we'll set that as the reference. And we'll put these side by side. So yeah, this is, I'm pretty sure this is my edit on the left. Let me just double check. I'm pretty sure, right? Because if I select, yeah. So my edit's there on the left. And Paul's edit here on the right. So very similar. He cropped in a little tighter, you know, on the left side, because I can see more of the building here versus this is cut off a little bit. And the centering, you didn't center it like I did. I shifted the center over to the right a little bit. And then I made the water darker, you know, shinier, right? Because this reflection as it is to me is a little flat, right? I kind of like this harsher. And again, that's just a subjective choice on my part. You know, that's kind of my style, is very rich colors, very high contrast. But okay, very good. Let's see. Let me get to Heather's shot here. So this one. So do I need the optics module? No. I keep forgetting to check that. So we're going to do my extra sharp. And it's a little bit underexposed, but I get that because you want to try to preserve the highlights in the feathers. Let's do a vertical crop, maybe. Because I think we can get away with this without losing any details here. And like I said, this is a bit underexposed, so I'm just going to add a little brightness. Okay. That looks about right. And then let's add a little bit of warmth. So again, this is the first photo I've had to make like a major change to the exposure and white balance, right, on a global scale. I didn't go right to the local editing. So my white balance, let's just do the eyedropper here. Okay, that looks good. And what we'll do is we'll add a little bit of color or brightness on the beak and the eyes. I could probably do that with some control points. let's start with the eye. See if we can bring out the iris. Put that right on the iris there. Add some clear view and micro contrast. I guess that's good. And then let's just use a brush. We'll use a masking brush. I kind of just want to highlight just right in here. A little bit there. Right in there. And then let's add the color back in. Okay, now I'm going to select the bird with the AI tool. So make a new mask. And I should be able to get right in here somewhere. There we go. I just move the mouse around until it kind of gets everything. And rather than using, you know, the AI tool select bird, right? Because I probably wouldn't even see this as a bird. Let me just brighten this up again about a half a stop. And then bring the background in a half a stop. Let's go over here a little bit more. And then back this off a little bit more. Okay. Oops. I think that's it. So there's the original on the left. Basically, we had to brighten it and adjust the white balance. That was about 80% of it. Then 20% to bring out a little bit extra color here in the beak and brighten the eye. So you can see that there's actually an iris here in the eye. And then we can do a split and just see the fine details. It's hard because the original shot was underexposed, right? But if we look at the feathers, it might be more obvious in here, especially right here along this line. But yeah, excellent shot. And that, what was that shot with? That was the 100 to 400. Wow. Okay. Really, really good. All right, my friends. That looks great. So Heather says, yes, underexposed intentionally, maybe a tad much. Not really. Close enough. I mean, for when you're in the field, right, it's hard to look through the EVF and adjust how much you want to underexpose by, right? So you can use the highlight shadow blinkies, right, to help you with that. But I think you did a good job because, like I said, raw files are always intended to be edited in post-processing. So if it looks pretty good through the EVF or on the back of your screen, and your highlight shadow indicators are not blinking, you're fine. You're fine. You know, you wouldn't want to deliver that straight out of camera, obviously, but you shot that with the intent to post-process. So that's perfectly fine. Now, if it was grossly underexposed, then yeah, we could run into problems with shadow noise, right? But that wasn't so grossly underexposed. It was underexposed for a straight out of camera shot, but not for raw processing. So that was a good job. Yeah, that is an amazing looking creature, isn't it, Tom? And Paul says, that would have been set in camera, I think, Heather. I have mine set up to add it to all my images. Okay, I'm not sure what you're referring to. Maybe about the underexposed part. And yeah, that's a really cool shot. And Cynthia says, this was a corporate shot. Or this wasn't a corporate shot. I did this for a cover of a book I wrote and self-published. Oh, okay. All right. I just assumed it was a corporate shot, but that's cool. So it makes sense for the cover to be in that portrait mode. But I'm not an expert on corporate shots and book cover shots, right? So I processed it like a portrait shot. But hopefully you got some ideas about how I edit portraits, by softening the skin with micro contrast and then minimizing the highlight speculars on the skin. That's kind of my primary goal to show you in that edit. But yeah, that was a nice shot. Okay. We're all set. So thanks everyone for sending your images in. I really appreciate it. I'll be back Sunday, God willing, to do my normal photo edit, or not photo editing, but photo chat. But every Friday I do these on photo editing for Photolab. So thank you so much for watching. You guys have a good day, a good weekend. Try to do that every day. You'll have a good life, right? Eat healthy and exercise. And I hope to see you guys all again soon.